let's start then. Okay, welcome everyone. Thanks for coming today to this last minute sort of, emergency stream. If you have been looking, like reading our updates, the story behind this very just last minute continuation of all that we've been doing is that we have finally shipped our notepads. Well, not all our notepads, like just the test ones that we've sent to some of our supporters that asked for them. And as we were, as we were kind of like packing these notepads, we really did want to have card in them with information about the people that had helped creating the characters, the design, the illustrations that you saw on that. But because everyone these days has like 15 different websites that they are on, we really had a problem on like how are we gonna like give the information that people do want to give out in like a small space of a card when there are many people that worked on the merchandise that we're doing. So the solution to this was, well, let's just make a theme page and let's just put the name of every person that has participated in the like every person in our team, basically. Let's put them all there, and so when people receive the card, they can see those names, and then they can go to the team page to find out more about the creators. So yes, that's what we are going to be doing today, and to do that we are going to use content collections. But this is also a great opportunity because if you remember what we were doing last time, we were going through data types in TypeScript. We were learning like the basics of what are variables, what are arrays, what are functions, and all that. And we were missing one very, very important and very, very cool type of data that you can have in JavaScript, which is objects. And these are like kind of fundamental for content collections. So that's what we're going to start with. We're going to start with just reviewing the very basics very quickly, then going to objects, explains what objects are, and then go to build our theme page, and we will see how much of what we're doing is just basically dealing with objects. And so hopefully now that we are doing again content collections with that understanding of exactly how what the underlying structures are, hopefully this helps make it a bit more a bit easier for people to like follow along. So yeah, if people are ready, we will start just talking about all of this. As usual, please do feel free to stop me if you have any question or anything that you might need more information from me on. Let me try to find my list of notes while we do this. Okay, perfect. So I am everyone following? Everything all right? Okay, so I also don't know, as usual, I also do not know exactly how late the much delay is there between what I'm seeing and what people are hearing. So you can stop me even before all of that. It's okay if I've moved along. It might have been because I wasn't actually hearing you, like seeing you yet. So okay, let's do this. I open just one random page. Now we see the I do not know how to use the new keyboard. I had to move to the old one to change the size of my screen because I do not know how to do this. So I'm just gonna move to a page to have somewhere to write on. So, okay, let's just talk about a second about where we were. So things that we have seen last time, we have seen how to declare variables. So you had like const, name, and then you have this is a text, and this is like you're declaring a constant variable that you cannot edit. You can have TypeScript help you with like knowing what the type of this is, so you can declare this variable, so always contains a string. You can declare that something like a sum must always be a number, and things like that. So the variable was like the smallest building block. Then we add something like an array, and so in this case, when we're doing when we're talking about team members, one thing that we will have is something like a role. So this will be a array, which is represented with a square bracket of strings, and this is literally again a list. So one can have been an artist, character designer, then you can have been a writer. There are a lot of different potential roles, but like once you start having this type of, again, list, this is called an array in most programming languages, and it's indicated, and you will see these square brackets that are the kind of telling sign that that's what you're dealing with. So in this case, you know, string is text, and so you're gonna have this list of text things. The other thing that we saw was functions. So for example, a function is that's also a function maybe, but I don't know what I meant to do. So sum 1 and 2. So here a function is an operation that has like various parameters, so things that you give to it to operate on, and then it has a return value, which is what happens after all the function has executed all its code. It gives it back to you. Here the return value is going to be 3 because it's a sum, and it's gonna go in result. There are a lot of built-in functions. So for example, if you have like a role there, one built-in function is join. So every array you can do things like, oh, I'm gonna join and everything with a comma, and so it takes every element in the array and returns you can see here, it returns a string that is everything in this array separated by a comma. Or you can do things like map, which apply a function on every single element in this array and then returns you a new element, like a new array in which each element is swapped with the result of applying that function on the array element. So a bit complicated, but in this case, one thing we had done last time is we take role, map, we define a function. So you do it with this arrow syntax in modern JavaScript, and then you can do to uppercase, and this would, let me not be lazy, let me do it with the long form syntax. So you have so here you have a map, which is a function, a built-in function of arrays, and this map will take as one of its parameter another function. You can define function with this nice arrow syntax. These are the parameters, and the parameters that's going to be given to you is the element of that array, so role, and then you return the uppercase version of that role, and this is going to be like uppercase array. This is mostly, I want to say, where we were at, but I'm going to rerun this just to show people, just because this is a bit of the, well, I feel like we kind of want to make sure that you see and remember this before we move forward, because objects are gonna be a bit of this on steroids, as they say. So let me npm run dev here, and then I'm gonna refresh the page. Okay, what? Oh, I put this in the About Us page, so this is only gonna run when I go to. Yeah, I also need to console.log here. Okay, we're doing it. Give me. Sorry, it's a bit of a weird brain day. So console.log. I wanna show you in the outputs underneath here what is actually in this variable. So I'm gonna print role, and then I'm gonna print console.log uppercase array. Gonna save, and you can see here that in the first one we have artist, character designer, writer, and that's an array, and then we have an array which is exactly the same things, but now they are uppercase. So that's map. You can take a function, return the value that puts it there. One of the most useful things when you're doing just web development in general with something like Castro, because you can use these to go from, for example, a series of roles that a person had on the team to a series of list items in HTML that print each one of the roles wrapped in the appropriate tag. So this is, obviously we did more things last time, but this is, I think, more or less where we left. If you have any questions, let me know. But if this is more or less clear, I am going to go to the next big thing, which is objects. So now objects are, kind of want to make, Ellen says, I miss whether you typed it or it filled it for you. Why do we have lowercase and uppercase? If you mean the console output, I made a role array here, and then I made an uppercase array, which is you take the role array and then you use the map function of it, which you pass it as an argument another function which transforms it. I think transforms it makes it's a good way of putting. Apply this transformation on every element of the array, and so like we made it to uppercase here, and then we could do also like more thing like substring. Let's only take the first 3 characters. Is that how it works? Something like that. Yeah. Oh, what did I do here? So you can apply a lot of transformation there. And yeah, so I thought you typed it at the bottom again. No, I just printed it. And I just kind of wanted to show how, applying functions work, because we will use this. Okay, so we were saying objects. So kind of want to make the kind of quip that objects are the powerhouse of the JavaScript, because they are everywhere. Sorry, let me get back my brain. So basically an object is we had like a single value, the variable, and then we had a list of of values, which is the array. And now we have like a much more complex structure which maps a key to a value. So instead of simply having, for example, you could have here, we have, an artist, and you could do something like artist name, and that's, who am I gonna use? I'm gonna use Emmy. sorry, I don't know how to pronounce it actually, Wamsky. And then this artist, you might want to have their website. I will have, you know, my keyboard is kind of like, as long as it works, I'm faster with it. And then when I start missing things, it gets a bit tricky. But you can have, okay, so you have the website, you know, and then you have, I don't know, Tumblr, no, what's that, ymsk dot, and then you will have the role. There are many different like type of like information associated with this artist, and you can see now here, if we're only thinking about variables, we are going to have basically a different variable for each type of attribute that this artist that we're talking about is going to have. But instead, what if we could do this better? What if we could have something that's more like all the information of this artist all stored together into a single variable? So here we have an artist, and with this syntax, which uses parentheses, we can collect all the information on them all together. So name, I am pretty sure I got it wrong. I am so sorry, Emmy. Emmy has made, you will find the link to their page at the end. Please go see them so I can forgive me for having use their example, even though I always forget how it's spelled. But they made the HTML and CSS character designing, and they're amazing. So name, and then we have websites, and this is going to be, you know, I made it not an array, but this is actually going to be an array. And so you're going to put all the information here. And then the role, also an array. Okay, I'm missing. Okay, found the key on my keyboard. And so yeah, this is an object. This is a JavaScript object. So instead of like, you know, it allows you to have a lot more information to sorry, I distracted the chat. It allows you to have a lot of information basically just within the same variable. And so you don't really have to like, you know, if you're representing something complex like an artist, you do not store it all in separate variables. You can just have an object and that contains all the information that you're seeking. Alan says, I invited a special guest. I am not exactly sure how to see anything about that. So I guess welcome, special guest, whoever you are. But yeah, so that's a JavaScript object. You will find it everywhere. And again, telltale sign, like I said, when you have an array, the square brackets. When you have an object, the braces or curly braces, I forget again, but that one. So objects are incredibly powerful. So now I can log it here as we did before. I can have that print to my console. Oh, you invited Spank. Ellen invited one of the artists that we're gonna add information to. One whose name I actually remember how to spell, and I should have maybe thought about it. But yeah, you can see here now I have console.log that object, and you know I here is all the information, and then I can also add things. So I can also console.log, for example, only some of that information. So name here, and that would give me the name. As you can see, TypeScript gives me the completion for all the possible values in that array, all the possible keys. Sorry, in that object. And yeah, I can have objects within objects. So let me think, what would be one object within object for an artist? Let's see. I am blanking. Well, let's say that websites, for example. Oh, I would do website as URL and name, same brain. Websites. So let's say one is like URL, and then it's like tumblr.com/whatever. And then we have name. Let's say this is Tumblr, and maybe we do something like type, and then we do personal. And then you can do array elements that are object themselves. So we could have like twitter.com. Okay, and then this would be Twitter, and this would be type, I don't know, art or something. And so here, when we go print console.log the artist, we could see that this now starts being a more complex object. And this is what objects are. They can become like infinitely complex, infinitely deep, and they are just a way of like grouping related information together, and help you, just model your data in like a more complex way than arrays and variables allow you to do. So one thing that like you always see objects in, and when you're doing Astro things, like the example that really does come to mind is like props. So if you remember when we did, for example, let's see what had some props. Here, this props interface in page layout.astro. So when you go here, and you're declaring this interface, this is basically declaring the type of an object. So let me look console.logs the props here, and we will see it. So I do console.log props, and I will and now here this is returning this is the console logging of those props, and you can see that these props have two different, this one has a page title and it has a class, all this, and it's an object. You can see that it's an object because of the curly braces, as I was saying. So that's what you have within props. It's slightly different from what's declared here, but don't worry too much about it. These are like passed around. Everything that you can do on an object, you can do on something like props. So here you could access this with like page title, and then you can do, what's the type of page title? Well, that's a string. And so now all the methods that we used on strings, they will work on that page title. I'll explain to you the question mark in 1 second. So you can do to uppercase and all that. The thing about objects is when you're defining them through an interface, they can be they can have properties that always have to be there, and properties that can be optional or not. So this is what the question mark is about. So page title here, we talked about it when we did this page layout, but that's not something that one has to pass. It's just like a nice thing to have. And so when you go access it, like you put this question mark to indicate that it might be a string, but it might also be undefined, and undefined means it's not present. And here, when you go to uppercase on that, like using the string method, TypeScript warns you here that props.pageTitle is possibly undefined, and so you cannot actually call the toUppercase method on it. The method is a synonym for function in an object. Sorry, just letting you know. But function, it works perfectly well as a substitute if you aren't like being nitpicky. So you cannot use the toUppercase function from the page title because there is the possibility that this is not actually here. And so the question mark says only do that if that page title is there. And you can also use where is it? Also, this keyboard doesn't have the letters on top. It's all blank. So now I'm trying to remember where the exclamation mark is. No, I need oh, here on top of the one, obviously. This, you can also sometimes see the exclamation mark. That means that you're basically telling TypeScript to shut up. You're sure that that thing is there. Two different ways of doing a similar thing. One is like, just shut up, and I will take the responsibility if I try to call this onto something that's not a string. And you know, okay, maybe it is a string, just do this only if this exists. Alan said, what is a synonym for a function? Method. So when you do Lee just said it. Method when you're talking about objects in particular. Yeah. I mean, there is all kinds of like caveats and things, but yeah, a function that exists within an object and that is like operating on that object itself, it's called often a method. I don't know if I always use it correctly, but you know, like that's what I'm used to say in when talking. So you know, sometimes if I use these words and you're suddenly like, I've never heard of what a method is, please do tell me, because I unfortunately, like experienced programmer brain sometimes. So yeah, so we were discussing objects. That's the idea of an object, and just like we have typed, you know, like string here, we can do the same for objects. So here, now this is a bit of a really big example. So let me try making a smaller example to show you how to type an object. So let's say, what do we have? Well, I'm just gonna do a smaller version of that. So we have a team member, let's call it member. And then we want to talk about, like, we want to write out what do members look like. Hey, Digishu. So what do these members, what are they supposed to look like? All of them. So they have a name. The name is a string. And then they have a role, which is an array of strings. Okay, well, found it. And then we have websites. And we're gonna go with array of strings too. Remember, this is the type, not the object itself. Let me, if you remember, this here, the thing that I wrote here, this is the type of member, not the variable itself. So here we have name. That name is gonna use myself. Essential randomness. I can type. Yes. Role. Project lead as an array, because there's many. And then we are going to have, I'm so sorry. I swear I can type. Websites. And then I'm gonna put my websites there. Okay, so the same way as we can do things like const name string and then the name here, we can also do the same type of typing, like setting a type here for objects, and it's similar syntax as the object there. So this is saying us that the variable name member will be an object, hence the bracket. It will have a name, which is going to be a string. It will have a role, which is a string array, and then it will have websites, which is also a string array. And so this, as we saw last time, and as we saw when I accidentally forgot the square brackets there, if you do not match what you write here with what the type is declared here, you are going to have a problem. So here this is gonna say type string is not assignable to type string array, which is just telling you, yeah, I want a list of things here, like a list of words. Do not just give me a single word. Now, obviously, this is like useful up to a certain point, because, yeah, I can declare one member variable that, you know, fits this mold. But what if I want to do something that's like more, what if I want to have a lot of member and I want to make sure that each member, like always matches this format? So that's what custom types are for. So there are a few ways of declaring custom types in TypeScript. The one that we have already seen one, if you remember this, the props interface. We can do the same for different types. So we can do interface team member. Okay, got it. And now that we have declared this interface here, we can just use it in place of our typing. So here we have a member that is a team member, and then we need to fix this. See, I have fixed the string to array, and so now this member here, I am sure, because I added this column team member, I'm sure it's gonna have to match the type as I've defined it here. We can go a bit further and we can make this be members and then make this be a team members array. And so now it's not just an object, now it has to be an array. Sorry, it has to be an array whose elements are objects of type team member. And so you have mine, then you have, gonna use the surgeon's one this time. The surgeon designed area. And also the beautiful illustration of Git, the Batwater Git thing. So name, role, artist, and it's gonna yell at me until everything that I have declared here is not filled. So here you see, here tell me property website is missing in type name, string, role string, which is what I've wrote until now, but required in type team member. So just telling me you also need to have websites there. And there it is. So here is what an object is, and here is how you can define, create your own type is basically what you're doing. Like, you know, as we've seen last time, and we discussed it briefly earlier, TypeScript comes with its own type. So you have string, you have a number, you have a race, and then you can name them. Like, you can create complex ones by using interfaces. And so team member is our complex type. And now we have been able to declare here that we have a list of a series of elements, and each one of those elements has to have all the properties defined in team member. And this is what objects are. The one cool thing that actually, I'm gonna ask first if there's any question about like objects in general, and then I want to talk about a couple of syntax parts, and then we are going to like use them for content collection, because that's what content collections give you back. They give you back objects. Is type something that's actually part of the language, or just how you're describing the object you made, or limited to TypeScript only? Well, so there are types in JavaScript in the sense that, you know, something can be a number, can be a string, can be an array, and those are like types. But overall, that information is not really something that the language uses when you're like writing it. And so like JavaScript doesn't have anything like your ability to declare your own custom type. Like this thing, when you go put your TypeScript code and have it become JavaScript, this is gone. It's forever gone. This is just something that you are creating yourself, that TypeScript is gonna use as a hint here, so that as you type, it's like, I know what team member is, and what you're giving me is not a team member, and I'm gonna stop you from like running your code until you actually give me, until you like make sure that what you have there is exactly matching your definition of a team member. That's something that only TypeScript does. Like this interface bit here has no meaning in JavaScript. It gets thrown away. But like the concept of a type, it's kind of like, like there is a string, a concept of string in JavaScript itself, because it, you know, when you go here and you do dot to uppercase, JavaScript knows that that's a specific type that has that to uppercase function. But it's like, but it doesn't really surface it to you usually. So it's for convenience, like you say, that you have to fill out the form completely, so to speak. Yeah, it is. This is really like a lot of it is convenience. It's really not changing much. Not much at all. Okay, there are a couple things in TypeScript that give you stuff that JavaScript can't do, and people don't want you to use them. Some people. So for the most part, TypeScript is like just something that adds these safeguards for you that help you make sure that your code is correct, and do not add functionality that does not exist in JavaScript by itself. And you know, like it adds the functionality to like restrict you. It stops you from doing things that, you know, may be possible, but that maybe are not what you want to be doing. So it adds you these kind of guardrails for you. It's a convenience. But yeah, so that's basically what objects are. Let me see my list if there is anything else. to look at. You get I don't know if there is in this one. I don't think we are using libraries here. We were using libraries in another one. Oh, here, like, let's look, for example, this astro.url. Here, this astro thing, .url thing, this is a built-in astro thing. So this is, we're not importing it, but it exists in astro, and I'm pretty sure we could console.log it to see what's inside here. So let's see this. Here in our navigation, we are using this astro convenience thing, astro.url. When we go print it, you see the curly thing here? Here, you can see this is also an object. So a lot of, maybe we can also console.log astro. I wonder what's there. Oh, wow, that's a lot. Yeah, see, it's like, that's also this console.log. When you go look at astro, that is also an object. Look how many things it has inside. And so, yeah, like, a lot of this is just objects and objects and objects. And console.log in JavaScript works with a lot of things. So one of the first things I do when I like use a library and don't know what's available in the library is I console.log it, because that one is gonna show you what, like, the libraries, when you import them, they're gonna give you an object. And that object is going to contain everything that the library can do, like all the functions that you can call on the library. And you can console.log it and see it. And he is asking, I need to know what extension you have that is printing your console.log stuff inside your VS Code window. Pretty sure that's Console Ninja. Extension, where are you, Console Ninja? Console Ninja. Here. You should try it and let me know what you think. I liked the idea more than I've used it, but it's still there, so it's not annoying. So okay, yeah, that's what objects are. And you can, as I mentioned, maybe just one thing to say it is you can have functions on objects. So I don't know, let's say says hi, and then here I am going to, okay, where is the column? Here, yes. Like here, I know it feels weird, and then you can do, but you can have a function here. So one member of your one value in your members thing can be a function, and then you can do things like, well, if we had declared it, that we could do just like members.say hi and use the parentheses to call it. Yeah, that's a thing you can do. So I was saying some of the nice syntax of objects that you're likely to find around, and you will see me specifically use this one a lot. I'm just gonna go with a single team member because that's easy. One of the most fantastic things in JavaScript objects is called the structuring, and that is when you want to take you want to basically extract variables outside of your object. So you want to say, okay, give me the name and role of this member. So that one cannot be defined. So here, for example, we have a way of declaring variable and kind of extract them out of an object. So you can do, here you're declaring a name variable and a role variable, which are taken from member. And so these are going to be if we log them, these are gonna be you can see that down here they are just gonna be the values as they appear in member. Let's try to have 2 members, and I can show you how this works. Member 1 and member 2, and then here I'm gonna use the sergeant again. And so here when we do member 1, now name and role are gonna be mine, and then when we use member 2, here we're gonna print the other ones. And so this is just a way that you can extract values outside of an object, and it's again one of those things that you're gonna see around. I don't know that I have used it here. I haven't yet that I can see, but you know, if you look at other codes that I've written probably during these streams, or examples on the web, you're gonna see this one a lot. And I think this is most of it. There's 2 different ways to access how do you call them? To access properties on an object. So that the dot syntax, we have looked at that, but there is another one, which these are mostly equivalent. They're equivalent for all the intents and purposes that you have right now. Again, one thing that I see people get confused by, because you see this in a lot of like people have their own styles. This one I think is the most popular these days, but these are mostly equivalent. You can also do this, use these to change things. So you can do member.names equals whatever, or you can do like member 1 dot using the other syntax. These are all ways to do to handle object. Lee says dot syntax superiority. I mean, yes, I agree. I actually do prefer it. But if we wanna, if we wanna talk about what are the difference, the difference is this one is slightly more powerful, because you can't if you do this. Well, it's yelling at me because that doesn't exist in that type, but you cannot use this symbol here in objects in JavaScript, like to access things. So if you have like a dash, minus thing in your name, then you're gonna be forced to use this other syntax. The other thing you can do is, if you want to be like very like advanced, you can do things like you can say I want the name. You can do something like this, and this should log the name of the okay. And so here this one is logging the name, like this is property to access is set to name, and this one is logging the property to access of member 1, and so it's using that to decide which one to show. So for example, if I cancel this, if I update this to be role, it will instead do project lead, and you can't do that with dot syntax. Will you need to do this? Maybe not, but you can do that if you want. So yeah, that's I'm everything I wrote down that I should tell people about with regard to objects, and yeah, and I think it's all. So if there aren't any more questions, we can actually go use this for the team members page. In the meantime, I'm gonna stop that, and I am going to see what did I modify. This one got modified. I think this just happens every time because I haven't set up this well. And then the About Us page. Oh yeah, that's the thing I've done. Okay, let's make the thing. So I'm gonna restore all the changes I've made. That's the git command to tell it to not. Yeah, now every change I've made has been reverted. I'm going to quickly go back to the characters card branch that we have made the last time. So now, if you remember correctly what we were doing, I am going to go to the browser. So now we're gonna go back to the please remind me if I'm talking over the wrong thing. So here, remember we were making our character cards, and then we had created like Git and GitHub only, I think. Yeah, using content collections. So where is it? We kind of left this halfway through because what happened was, as I was doing this, as I was explaining things, I kind of started thinking, well, that is a lot of words that people do not really have a frame of reference for. So now I hope that, having learned about it, and especially objects, now there is a little bit more of that. And we are not gonna continue this. We are gonna create a new branch thanks to Git. We can just do that. We can just go back to our original website and start working on a new feature while leaving this hanging for a little bit more. But let's just go look at it and remember what we were doing. So we had the content folder, which is where Astro stores its content collection. We created a configuration that here. Oh no, wait, switch windows. Yes, I remembered. Are we gonna count again? But yes, we had our content collection folder, and then we had created a configuration for our content collection. And here, see all this very, very big thing? This was our description of what we wanted. See object here? What we wanted the object returned by our content collections to look like. This is incredibly similar to what we just did with interface, but it is slightly bit more complicated because this is, it's just a different syntax. It is more complicated because it actually does more things, but more or less there is an equivalent to all the concepts. So you can see here, we were saying, so we had defined a collection, and this collection has a schema, which is its type, and this is gonna be an object. We'll have an image as src, which is gonna be a string, a home, which is gonna be either localhost or browserland, an array of strings, which is the likes. Then we had an array of strings, which was the dislikes, a series of tropes, which is an array, and things like that. So that's what we had done, and then we had created here in characters our markdown files that had a front matter, which is a YAML file. Well, no, it's not a YAML file, it's a markdown file, which a front matter that is YAML definition of things. We're going to talk about YAML here. And then the content of like we use the content part of the markdown file for the description of the characters. So we had done all that, defined it, and then we are gone on pages, made our characters, and we had imported the get collection method from this astro.content, and then we had gotten our get collection function and the characters content collection, gotten the data, and then this data here had we use the map method. Remember the map method that we talked about very at the beginning? Like this data, you can see it's the type is a okay, I can't move the map. Wait, you see it, right? Okay. There. I can't move the mouse to show you, but this one says, now that you can read TypeScript, it says, okay, so we have a const data variable, and then the colon says, this is of type collection entry characters with the square brackets, and so it's telling you it's an array of type collection entry of characters. You don't really need to know fully what that means, but I think, see, the fact that there is that square brackets tells you that it's an array, and that tells you that you can use the map method on it to go from that to go from each element of the collection to an HTML element, for example. So here what we did is we went over every single element in the collection, and then we returned a character card, which was this component we created, and we passed it all the here you have character, which is the collection entry of characters, and you can see you have, this is an object with like all the properties that we've defined before, and we just pass them to it. So that's what we had done last time, and now we're gonna do it again. We're gonna do it again a bit slower. So let me close everything and let's get started. So as I mentioned, we aren't gonna we aren't gonna continue with this today. We are going to create a new branch, and we're first going to go back to main because I want to start from there. So this is our website. Here I've just changed branch. I went from characters card, which is where we were working earlier, to main again, which is where we're at. We can use git log to see where main currently is at with the work. Here you can see the commit we're at. The last one was the fix my images mistake that we did, like we started the content collection stream with. Here it's telling me this is where I'm at right now. This is where my head is, and it's also where the main in both upstream, which is our website as people see, and my origin, which is how I saved it to GitHub, is right now. So this is the canonical version of the code right now. From here, from this point, I want to create a new branch, which is team, I'm gonna call it. So here, switch to a new branch called team, and then if I log, we can see now that my head, so where I'm at right now, it's in team, which is also where upstream main is, origin main, and my main all are. So here all these branches are like starting from the code at the exact same point in time. So now, yeah, I'm starting with a clean slate. You know, we have a branch, like we've made a branch another time where we were working on something, and obviously we will continue working on that soon. But because this isn't like, you know, we had to post, we had this emergency stream now, we can work on something different, and not worry about that. We'll worry about that later. So that's part of why Git is so cool. Okay, so now we do not have content collection set up on these on this branch, so we will have to set them up again. But it's easy because you just make a content folder and then you export a config.typescript thing. 99% sure. Let me go actually on the Astro documentation and like copy their boilerplate and also double check that that's what I need to do. All right, content collections, blah, blah, blah. Okay, yes. I am copying and pasting their boilerplate and blah, blah, blah. Okay, removing the things. And it's not going to be blog collection. This is going to be a theme. So our collection is going to be a series of files, each one of which is going to describe the data of a team member. So here, team, okay, team collection, and then here, and this is going to be team. You can see this is also an object. See this bit? What this is doing is literally from this config.ts we are exporting. Export here means that whoever is going to run this code is going to be able to like take this information and use it for themselves. Kind of like how you do when you do import here. You see here you have import defined collection. This is kind of like the other side of these export collections. If you were importing these files because you're doing export cons collection, you would be able to do import collections. And that's kind of like what Astro is going to be doing. It's going to be going through our config and exporting the collections object and looking at what we put there. So, well, hopefully it's useful, you know, just give this information because it's not obvious, I think, and hopefully it helps you kind of understand what's going on under the hood. So yeah, we have this object here and we have defined a collection named team, and the definition is this in this variable teams collection. It's using this define collection function, which is also being passed an object. That object contains the definition of your collection. So what do collection definition have? The first one is type, and there is two types. One is data and one is content. Look, 1 second, double checking. Yes, we're gonna do data. I'm gonna explain the difference in 1 second, but I first wanna see if I can get it to stop having the squiggly line under astro.content, so I get the TypeScript ints. I think running anything like build will help. Will you help? Yes, it did. It needed that small boost. Okay, so now that I have actually done that I've gotten TypeScript to kick in, now if I do type, this should tell me, yeah, it can be either content or data. So now I gotten back all the hints, those delicious hints. So there's two types of content collection, and someone asked me about this on Twitter or Mastodon or something some time ago. The ones we did before was the content one, and that one, like the difference is just basically that content collections of type content have actual, like, they're usually done in Markdown or MDX, and they have one part that is like content, so like a recipe, a blog post. It's not just a series of data. You have actual part where you type things, and that's the content bit of it. And while data content collections do not have that, they are pure data. You have nothing that requires like rendering, like you don't have HTML elements that require transformation, none of that. It's just like a pure, kind of like how I did before, you know, like I made an array of objects and like everything was very just static data. That's what a data content collection is. So if you aren't gonna be typing like yeah, if you're not going to be typing content, the data content collection is particularly, it's totally fine. And then just like the both types of content collection also have what's called a schema, which is very similar in concept as a type. I think I did go reading a bit more about this, and you know, these names people have like definitions vary a lot, but it is a bit more of a concrete interpretation of a type. So a type tells you about the shape, but it's more like a hint about the shape, and the schema is like, no, this is what the shape must be like. So the way that Astro collections define schema is they use this Z thing, which is because it comes from a library called Zod, and so Z is how, like, a method from Zod. You just will find within this Z object, you will find names that map to most of the type concepts that we have seen. So, but actually, let me see if I can print what's in Z. So here, if you look, if I'm gonna console log this, oh, I might not, well, let's see. Yeah, here it is, look down here. There is a lot within that Z. But among all these other many things that you find in, sorry, my cat is jumping around. In Z, you also will find things like string, array, like a lot of things that we have seen around, and object. And they have a strong correspondence, what you see in TypeScript. So we said this is the theme collection. So in the schema, we are defining how each, sorry, give me 1 second. So when we do a content collection, we are basically going to be creating a folder in which there's going to be a series of files, each of which will be one element of this collection. And what the schema does is it defines what is going to be in those files. How is the content of those files going to have to look like? So in our case, we have this, we know that it's an object. Like usually you always get an object back here. So that's the big part of the schema, because you're accumulating a lot of information in one file. So the way this file is going to look is it's going to give us a bunch of different values, one of which is going to be a name, that is going to be a string, and that's going to be the name of the team member. And then we are going to have their roles, I guess, because it's going to be plural, and that's going to be still a string, but it's going to be an array. And this is how you define it in here. So string, but then transform these strings to be an array of strings. This is all like Zod stuff. ZOD. And if you Google, you'll find so many Zod tutorials because it's so popular, because it's so good. And then we have contacts. I think I called it when I did the, and this is gonna be strings. Then Zod has some extra types that TypeScript does not have by default. One of these is URL. And then that's also an array. So this is an array, but it's an array of URLs. And this should be it. Oh, we also have an avatar, but I am going to talk more about the avatar in 1 second. But let me just put it. Okay, so now we have now we have this schema we have defined, and this is what our files are going to look like. And now we need to have a theme folder, because that's what we named our content collection. And then here we can start having team members information. So let's start with mine. So for information, like for data, there are two popular data types, and I'm also going to use the Sergeant as an example again. Okay, so the two data types, YAML here, YAML, yet another markup language for those not familiar, and then JSON, JavaScript object notation. They are two of the most popular, honestly, ways to write data in like many languages. YAML is, well, okay, sorry, let me go back. There are two of the most popular ways to write data when people have to write and read that data manually. So now it's not just like it's not like, you know, a lot of programs do read and write files in YAML and JSON, but JSON and YAML are particularly popular for things that humans also need to actually handle. YAML in particular, it's a kind of like elicits feelings in people. I am not a huge fan, but it is because it's like used a lot in markdown files in the beginning, in the front matter part. That's just become really popular, and it's what I'm gonna use here as a default too. So here we just wanna do this team collection thing. So I'm gonna do a name, and that's gonna be essential. Okay. I sometimes need to breathe into this keyboard because if I start to panic, I forget how to use it. So name is extension randomness. Then what did we have? We had roles, and then this is gonna be an array. So kind of like property name, property value, property name, and now if it is an array, two spaces, then the dash thing, then the hyphen thing, and then project lead, and then let's see, writer and merge designer, something like that, and then contacts. I don't know. I'm just gonna put one. Like, that's an example of how you would type these things in YAML. As I said, name, value, name, this indicate an array. Each one of these is a string, and same thing, altogether this is an object. JSON, other way of doing something similar, but the syntax is 99% the same syntax as you do when you declare an object in JavaScript. So here you have name, and then that's gonna be okay, and then the comma, and then you're gonna have roles, then an array, so the famous square brackets, character designer, and then contacts, where are you? Brie, found it. Yes. And then this one will have to be a URL, or it's gonna ridiculous. I'm gonna put Tumblr URL right now. And you can see YAML, JSON, two ways of representing this exact same thing. Both are data formats, so you can use them with data content collections. I have forgotten the avatar, so we will see that this is gonna yell at us if I run it as it is. I'm just gonna avoid it. I'm just gonna put the avatar and be done with it. And this is gonna be like, I don't know, avatar.png, and here similar. Okay, this represents the same thing. It's just literally two different data formats for very similar things that eventually all respect this schema. So this is the source of truth. This is telling us what this will have to look like for Astro not to yell at us. And this is two different ways. You choose the one you prefer. Maybe one of them you already have, and so it makes it for an easier choice for you. The long and short of it is, once you have done this, you can go to create a new page in Astro, and we're gonna do theme.astro, and here in your Astro file, let me get there, page layout. This is gonna be our theme, and then you're also similarly our theme. We are removing all of this. We are re-importing page layout. Wrong button. We are importing that. And now we have a theme.astro page. But what we can also do is we can use the methods in content collection and get all the data that we just defined very quickly. And to do that, I'm going back on the documentation to get the method, even though I think it's like just get collection. Yes. Theme. This is gonna be await. I'm gonna refresh what await is in 1 second. Get collection, and then the theme collection, right? But I need to first run this to have it pick up the collection. Let me double check. Okay, so the theme collection does exist, so let me run it in dev mode, and now it should pick it up, and it should stop squiggling in red. Can you do it? It has... nah. Well, let me try to console log this. I console log things a lot because oh, there we go. It got it. Okay, so well, let me show you that if I'm not going to I'm not showing you the page because the page is empty, but now if I go to the page, it's actually going to, the content of theme is the data on the files that we just declared. Yeah, that's it. And Alan says we are awaiting await. Yes, so functions. We talked about functions. You give it a value, you give it some parameters, they do things with those parameters, and then they return you a value. That's like how a normal function works. You know, a sum, 1 and 2, like goes these things, and then it goes back and it's like the result is 3. Fantastic. We, like most programming languages, like this just works this way. Now, there are some operations that take time, and the function wants to have a way to be like, okay, you know what, I need to go over the network, like I need to make a request to a web page, or I need to go read from the disk, or I need to wait for the user to give me an input. And you know, those things that you do not really want with something that is as, you know, for something with JavaScript, like JavaScript, that like expects these things a lot, like request to networks or reading things or waiting for user input, you do not really want to block the program while these things are being done. And so they use this paradigm that's called an asynchronous paradigm, where some functions actually return the concept of a promise. So the promise is basically just saying, I will give you this result at some point, but like I promise to give it to you, but not right now. And if you do want, however, like you can continue, you know, like you can continue doing your own things. But if you do want to wait for that result to be available before doing things, you can use a wait. And you're just saying, okay, I'm waiting for the promise that this data is going to arrive to be, as they say, the term is to be resolved. So team eventually, like if you look at get collection here and all these like really big, very scary thing, it tells you, oh, let me try here. If I don't use a wait, you can see that team here, it says the type of team is a promise of a collection entry team array. So it is basically the value is it is promising you at some point to give you that array of entries of type team. And because you do not want your promise, like you're like, I'm gonna sit here until you actually do give me that thing, you can just say, I'm gonna wait for you. And now if you look at team, again, now the promise thing is gone. And you actually have what you need. So this is the I can feel people that like, you know a lot about JavaScript being like, oh, that's not but it is intuitive. I think this is a good way of getting the intuition for what a promise is. And you will find this a lot in this type of like handling content collection. I think, you know, like the wait and async and all these like promise like things are probably where a lot of people are gonna be like raging, because it's like, what are you telling me? What I don't understand. Read about promises a little bit. I'm sure there are there are a lot of introductory things that are simple, or like hopefully like this also has helped. But yeah, often if you see promise, you either need to await or you need to add async to your function, which we will see soon. So here now we have team, and now you can see that this team thing that I'm being given is an array with all my data about my content collection. Now another thing that I want to say is if you look at here at the output, you can see the roles and contacts. You have this here, it just says array, and it's, yeah, you know, it doesn't show you what's inside there, and that's a problem because maybe you do want to know what's inside there, and there's a couple ways of doing that. So first of all, what's happening? Well, what's happening is when JavaScript, when like the JavaScript console, like the terminal in this case, or the browser console prints an object, it kind of puts a limit to how deep in the object goes. Like, you know, we've seen this before, like, you know, an object can have a property that is also an object, and then that object can have a property that's also an object, and then that object can have another property, and it can go very, like, as the word is, it can go very deep. Like it can be a very big, deep rabbit hole, and it can make programs maybe have their memory overrun just because of how big this chain is. And so to avoid doing that, they cap the amount of like times that they will follow the nested objects. But if you're like, no, I really want to do this, I really want to see the object, there are two ways. One is the modern way, which is console.dir, which works somewhat similar to console.log, but as a second argument, which is also an object. See, now that you know the word object, I'm just like, yeah, see, everything is an object. The second argument is an object, which if you give it a depth property and you say null for no value, then it will, yeah, now it prints exactly everything. So that's one way. You need to remember that you have this like special way of doing that, and depth has to be null. You can also put a number here. In our case, like 5 will work. Let me see what happens if I put 1. Then yeah, see, now data is marked as object here. Like we are getting like extremely shallow. So now we do 2, and now we should have, yeah, now data is shown, but this rows array is not. And then we do depth 3, and now everything is shown. But obviously if you had more, it wouldn't show. Or you do depth null, and there. Or you do depth null, and it just goes. The other way, the modern way, the non-modern way actually, you can use console.log, but you use a thing called JSON.stringify, which is a method on the, there you are. JSON is a global object that has an intrinsic object that provides function to convert JavaScript values to and from the JavaScript object notation format. So this is basically telling you it's a global thing that exists, a global variable, and it contains methods to work with JSON with JavaScript objects. And this one, stringify, takes the objects and turn it into a string. So you say it, and like you see now, this is like literally, this is literal text that contains all the information. And the other thing it can do is like it has other arguments, and I do not know what they do, but I do know that if I do null and true, it prints it right there. And so that's another way of doing it. That's the old school way, to get it printed right. And yeah, I'm pretty sure that's the way every tutorial I've ever looked up said to do it. Yes, because that's the old school way. That's how like console.dir, I'm pretty sure I only found out about it this year. I think probably in a moment where I was like, please, why do I need to keep writing JSON.stringify? Haven't we evolved past the need of this yet? We have. Yeah, that turns out we did indeed evolve past the need of JSON.stringify. But I think you're gonna find it a lot, so it's still useful to know. And I think probably dir can do things maybe a bit better, because you have stringify might choke on some things that cannot be converted to a string, and it's like not a valid JSON thing, like functions or things. I don't know. But yeah, probably console.dir is the best way to do it, if you do remember it. So now this is this is like the setup. We have done the setup. So gonna ask for questions, and in the meantime I'm gonna make a commit. Okay, so I made a commit. And so now, since there aren't questions, I'm gonna do one thing, and I'm gonna delete this theme folder. And then I'm gonna do one thing. I am going, so if you look at the branches that I have here, I did a theme draft branch earlier this afternoon, where I tried doing this, but also where I already put in all the data for the team members. And so I am just gonna use the power of Git to take the content/theme folder in that branch and move and copy it on my current one. So I'm gonna do git checkout, and then I'm gonna do theme draft, and then I'm gonna use this dash thing that just basically is used to give file paths to the like as an argument to the things to check out. And so I'm gonna do src-content-/theme, the path to that folder. And if I've done it correctly, now when I press enter, I have the old theme folder here. Look at this. Now I have everything. They are all here, all the people that I got the one. Yeah, there they are. And I also did some, I left one in JSON just to show you. That's kind of like really the same as everyone else, because you can mix and match, which is nice. So now all the theme thing is on. Now the one thing that we're gonna see is I also have the avatars in here. So here are, like, you know, Jack's super hot avatar, or Surgeon's avatar, and then we're gonna see how we can load it as part of the content collection, which is slightly more complicated than you'd think. But before we do that, let's just double check. Let's just double check here that everything loads correctly. Let me go console.log theme again. This is like magic. I know it is really magic, right? I am, when I thought about, oh, I can just like do it in another branch and then check it out live, I was like, ooh, that's so smart of me. Yes, you see here, that's printing things correctly. Then it says unsupported type files found. Does not matter. The avatars are fine there. But yeah, here we're printing everything. Okay, so now let's actually go and print the team members information. I'm gonna put the browser window here at the bottom so we can start seeing it. And so what we are gonna do is we are gonna do what we always do. Map everything, like map all the thing. Team map, and then here you're gonna have, what does map take? Map takes a function. So we enter a function. There. And this function needs to return whatever we wanna return. In this case, let's say we return a div for each person, and that's gonna be this is gonna have a title, let's say an h2, and that's gonna have well, that's gonna have the team name. Obviously, where are we gonna get this from? Well, our function that we are giving to map is going to get it as a parameter. So here we are going to get the first parameter of the function that we're giving to map is going to be the member. This is this is the definition of map. When you write a function to give to map, the first argument to that is going to give you the element you're working with. So here we are going to have member, and then this member is going to have the collection it belongs to, the ID, which is a unique name for it, and then its data. Within its data, it's the name as we have defined. And so we save. And now if you look at the page that I'm also going to make bigger, you can see all the names. And then we can continue here. Here we can say, I don't know, H3, we can say roles. And then we can do like a list. And then the list, we do the same thing. We do, first of all, we start with this square bracket, with this, the curly brackets. I forget if you told me the name. Anyway, no, today is not the day for my brain to remember things. So, curly brackets it is. Braces, thank you. Oh my god, I will never remember braces, I swear to god. The braces indicates that we're moving from writing HTML to writing JavaScript. And so here we have member.data.roles, which remember is also an array. And so what do array do? They have a map method. The map method where you can get a role and then you can turn it into a list item. There, save, there. And so now every member, like in the very small thing, and then we are gonna do another one, and this other one is gonna have the URLs, contacts, I think I called them. And so here you have contact, and now this is gonna be slightly different because we are gonna have to have a link. So we are gonna do a anchor, which with a reference, href, which is where the anchor is gonna lead. Sorry. And so that's gonna be contact, which is our URL. And then for now we're just gonna use the contact thing. Then we're gonna make it a bit prettier. Okay, got it. Okay, so now if I go, oh wait, roles, this is contacts. I'm not gonna actually use it's a title, so that's okay. And so now if we go to the browser, see, now we have, this is literally what we were trying to do. That's it, they're all there. The one thing that we are missing, however, is we are missing an avatar. So now, if you look at the avatar, I mean, img, well, you use an image for it, but I'm just gonna show you that if we print the avatar, member.data.avatar, this is only gonna be a string. So yeah, here you have a, ooh, switch windows, yes. Fine, true, fine, okay. I have to say, you're right. So here in okay, so we were saying, here I printed members.data.avatar, and as you can see, this is literally just a string that is theoretically it's relative. Like if you go here, like I don't know, serifan, yes, this .avatar serifan 195.jpg, which is the relative path of these avatars, of the avatars within this folder. But it is just a string, like nothing is loading that avatar. And so the question is, okay, but how do I do that? How do I turn that string into an actual image? The way you do that is you use a special function in the in this define collection thing. There is a special function called image that Astro gives you specifically to allow you to load images from this type of content collections that are pointing to image resources on your disk. The way you use it is you need to turn, instead of having the schema be directly the object, you need to have schema be a function that returns as the object. So here I have just literally like added this. Because there are no parentheses here, this automatically returns it. So a bit contrived, but literally I just add this in front, and this is now a function that returns as the object. And here there are some tools that Astro passes. So when Astro comes call this theme collection, these tools here is going to contain tools for us. And that tools, one of them is called image. I think it's tools.image. And I think all you need to do is you need to just use it like that. I am fairly sure, and then it will work, except that it will tell me, it's telling me that I need the function shape for schema can only be used when experimental.assets is enabled. So I'm gonna go enable it. I'm gonna go in my Astro config, and here I'm gonna add, see an object, see the objects, they are everywhere. Experimental, and then experimental is an object, and then assets, I'm gonna make it true. I think if you upgrade to Astro 3, like Astro number 3, that's gonna be like the new version. That's gonna just be enabled by default, but I'm not sure. Anyway, now that we have done this, we go back to our theme page, and that avatar, now look, if I go to the browser, you see the thing that used to be like a string, now it's like this object, which is what happens, by the way, because if you start messing around with JavaScript, you're gonna see this object. This is gonna be the bane of your existence. What's happening when you see that is that there used to be there was an object there, and then JavaScript was asked to turn that object into a string, into text, and this is what appears when you try to turn an object into text. So it's telling you, yeah, you were expecting text, but it was me, object. Yes, that's what's happening there. I learned the reference. So for example, here I can literally, I can do JSON.stringify. Let's make JSON stringify be useful, because we can use it to see what's within avatar. And then I'm gonna use the null_to method just to make it a bit more nice. See, here is, yes, I know I didn't switch window, but it's fine, because I was gonna have to reswitch again. No, it took, no, I said it before you said 3, does not count. Anyway, this is an object this is an object. Now you can see in this object there is an src property that is like going through my file system and getting that JPEG, and then it's like the width and height of that, and the format is giving us a bit more information, but the one we care about is just the src. So we're gonna do here img src Okay. Oh, you've Lias reverted my crime. Now we're effectively just at 2 again. Because like no, but no. Wait. I did it. I kind of restart again. So you would be right to bring it back to 3 immediately. Anyway, so we have src there. So if we do member.data.avatar, now this one has the properties that we have just seen, and then we do src, and now we have, going back all the way here, we have all the different images, and some of us have like bigger images than others, but now all the data is there. And it's all loaded from the content collection. And like you see, also the nice thing about like the content collection is that because we are using that image thing, we can move the avatars folder within the theme folder in the content collection. And that means that like this theme folder here, this contains everything we have about our team members. Someone wants to make a pull request adding themselves to the team, they just need to change, like to add a new file in those folders. They don't have to go change anything else in our website. They just, those 2 folders, they put the avatar there and they put their data in the other one, and that's it. That's going to be enough for the whole website to be regenerated with a new team member in the page. And so like, yeah, so that's what content collections allow you to do. We want to create a new website that has the same theme folder, copy and paste the theme folder, move it somewhere else. And that will work. Ellen asked, would they have to have some kind of permission to do that? Like to add themselves to it? They need to go through the pull request process. So what they would do is they would create a fork of our code base. So they would basically go to the Fujo web GitHub and like hit fork on the button, and then they on the page, and that will make in their own GitHub account a copy of our website. Then they would go and they would add the data as we have seen, and they would create a commit, and they would upload that commit to GitHub like we do with push here. And then there is a button which is like create a pull request on GitHub, and they could use that to just go to our original repository and say, hey, I made this change and I added myself. Can I be your friend now? Like, can I also become part of the original code of the website? And then we would say, okay, yeah, this looks more or less correct. And we would do it. We would approve it, and then that would go there. And I don't know, Lee, if you want, once this is submitted, you could do it. So I'm gonna do a commit now. Let me just create a new one, and then I'm gonna be like, create new well, add all team members and display. So now there is obviously some styling to do, but before I do styling, I want to try and do a team member. Oh, you can see my terminal. Yeah, I know, it's okay. It's like nothing major happened. I just committed. What was I saying? Yeah, one thing I want to do that we haven't done last time, and that it's probably like one of the most important content collection features. I wanna go and show how to make a individual page for every team member. So we're just gonna be like, okay, let's let's do that. Let's allow someone not to go to just /theme, but to go, for example, /theme/essential.randomness and get my profile. So to do that, we need to do, well, first we need to make theme into a folder, and we can, within this folder, we should be able to just move theme.astro there. Okay. And then we can do index.astro, and this should be exactly equivalent to what we had. This is just how Astro routing works. This should work, right? Need to change the import. Okay. So there's two ways to well, when you do routing in Astro, like when you do like create the pages, you can like name the page. Like if you don't have slashes there, you can just like name the name of the page, as we have been doing all year, like characters.astro, about.astro. The moment you start wanting to have like stuff with slash, like theme/something, now you need to create a folder. And just kind of like how it works in pages, where index.astro is the file that has nothing, like that, you know, like you get by default is if you don't have anything added. That's the same for subfolder. So /theme index.astro, that's, we haven't changed much. That's just how it works. But the reason I've done it is because now we do want to have folders in here, that like a page in here that happens when you have a member name after /theme. So member.astro. So these parentheses, these square brackets here, are kind of like a, they're basically saying that that page has a parameter. So I'm gonna show you how this works. Let me actually get, first of all, let me get the sorry, I'm going, and this is fine that you aren't seeing it. I'm going to the Astro guide to get the documentation for this, just because I have, I want to make sure I use the right, like routing is the name. And yeah, you have static routes. This is a dynamic route. Could you create a page based on like member.role? Like, yeah, like it gets the role of the member and lists all the members with that role? Sure can. You can do whatever. We're gonna see it in 1 second. But yes, that's the yeah, you can do it. You can do it. Can you do tags? Can you do category? Yes, you can. You can do all that. You can do whatever you want. You can generate a page that does that based on the first letter of the name of the person. You can do a lot. So here, how does this work? Well, sorry, there was a noise. So the most important part here is, as I was saying, this is, you can see this member bit as being a bit of like a variable, you know. This page, once someone gets here, you're going to be able to have a member parameter that tells you what's the member of the page that you're on at that moment. But in order to tell Astro that this is a thing you want to do, sure, you have like given, you know, you have done the first step, so you have told it member is going to be a parameter of the page, but you also need to tell Astro what pages do you want to be generated in this format. So remember, when you call astro.build, when you call npm run build, and so you build your Astro website, Astro is going to go through all your files and is going to generate HTML files for every single page that you have. Here, there is suddenly, because you added these brackets and you now have a variable. Now, Astro is like, oh shit, I don't know who are these members. Like, I can generate whatever you want, but you need to tell me which member pages I should generate. So this is one extra step you need to do. And you do that by exporting a function, an asynchronous function, I'm pretty sure. No, just a function. We will see if it has to be asynchronous. My VS Code kind of like filled it in for me, which okay, yes, I guess spoilers. So you can export get static path function. Here is the function. This satisfies get static path. This is a TypeScript thing. You can remove it, but it's gonna be useful because it's gonna tell us if this is the right type. It's kinda equivalent to this, so maybe I'm just gonna do this because it's, yes, it's different, but it's similar enough that I'm not gonna introduce like a new concept on flight. But yeah, so you're gonna export a get static path function, which has a type, which is the get static path type. Doesn't matter, just for your convenience, for the syntax. And so this one is going to return an array, and that array is going to be the list of all the pages that you want to create here. So what we need to do is we need to go through our theme content collection. So we take this one back, and then here, see, it had to be async, because now, well, first we import this one. Okay, and now we have the problem. Await expressions are only allowed within async functions, and so you basically just have to say this function is asynchronous. So we add that. So here we have gotten the theme data just like we did before, and then here we need to return a list of all the pages, and believe it or not, it's map time again. I really just wanted to do, you know, all this TypeScript bit thing. I really just wanted to do it because, yeah, look at all this time that we need map, and you know, like, it seems like such a magic when you don't know what it's doing. But what it's doing is just like going through all this theme array, and then we are returning for each member, we are returning data on the page that this is gonna be creating. And so in this page, for each team member, we are going to say that the page is gonna have a param, and that param is going to be member, because this is what member, because it's what we wrote here in the page on top here. The value of member is gonna be member dot id, which is the name of the file basically. And so what we've done is that when you go around, when Astro goes to run this page, is going to first of all go through the when Astro is going to build your website, and it's gonna see a page that has a parameter like member here, it's going to go see if you have a get static path exported function here, export const get static path, and then it sees you have it, and then it's gonna run it. And when it runs, this is asynchronous, so it's gonna add an await when it does. For you don't have to worry about it. When it does it, it's gonna just go through this, and it's gonna say, okay, so I gave this function, this function is getting the get content collection theme, and then for each of them is basically going to create an array. Each element of the array is gonna be, so the first one is gonna be parameter, and member is, where is it? Here it's gonna be essential randomness, and then it's gonna do another one, and that's gonna be a very fun 195, and then Surgeon's Bank, and it's gonna just go through all of these and get one page with member being different for each one of the elements in the content collection. You could add more, or it could be something different, like here you could do, like Lee was asking, can I do it with like the roles? Yeah, you would need to first get all the roles and then return one for like each role, but yeah, that's something you can do. You can have like team, you can have here just like team, then you just put like another folder that's roles, and then inside that you have parentheses role.astro, something like that. But yeah, so now we're basically telling Astro about all the pages that it's gonna need to be creating for this, and then we are going to get that parameter. So here we can do const where is it? Member equals astro.params, and so that member is going to be the ID, and then we should be able to do something like const member entry equals get entry, and then here we have team, and then you have the slug, which is member, I think. What are you telling me? Yes, you just do not like, give me 1 second. It just doesn't like the type of member, because like I've not said that the param has to be of that type. I can look at this beautiful ignore the error TypeScript for 1 second. Let's see if this works. So here I'm just basically taking the team entry that's of type that is named member, like the parameter. And so here, if I am doing this correctly, I can just actually just print here member entry, maybe. Wait, aren't you also gonna be, oh, that's a promise. Okay, so I need to await it. Also, it's not gonna like it because it's telling me the type of this is undefined. TypeScript is getting very mad at me. But I just want to try it first, and let's see if it works. So here we had team, and now if I do, here I'm in the main page, and I'm gonna do essential dash randomness. I'm changing the URL. Well, it's printing object. Can you see it? It's printing object, so something is happening. So now if I do, well, I can console.log it. Let me just console.log it. So now if I reload the page, you can see that it actually did find my element in the content collection. And so you could use this to do anything you want. You could like literally use this to do the same thing based on roles, based on like the first letter of the member, as I was saying. Like all that you need to do is like you need to look at this get static path function, and you need to get it to return a list of objects, each of which has a params key that returns as a value the value of the parameters that you defined here, what it has to be. And then once you've written this function correctly, you can just like close it, not think about it and just think that when you do astro.params, you're gonna get a member in there, and that member is gonna be the name, like whatever you wrote member to be here, that's what's gonna be. Also, look at the structuring syntax. Remember earlier when I showed you how to like declare a variable and get the value out of an object at the same time? This is what's happening here. You are getting the member value of the astro.params object. And then yeah, you just get there. TypeScript is a bit mad at me. Now I do wonder. I do wonder if I can fix it. I have a few ideas of how to potentially fix it, but I don't know that. No, this is gonna be a lot more work. Okay, I'll figure it out in a second. Let me just get this page to actually display. So now I am going to just like copy this, guess. I'm just gonna copy this and then I'm gonna paste it here. But now instead of having, well, we have page layout. Yes, I will stop doing this mistake. Okay, and now we don't have theme.map for member, we just have member. So I'm just gonna get rid of a bunch of things. I probably need to get rid of this one too. Okay, well, obviously I don't really have member here because I have this member param. And then I named it member entry, and I'm just gonna change member here to member entry. TypeScript is gonna be mad at me for a little bit until I figure out that part. But if I save, what did it do? Okay. If I save, now, yeah, the page is theoretically displaying my huge ass avatar. And like nothing works right, including the logo, because I know I've made a mistake there. But you can see that now it's getting the data from me. Let me get this page a bit better. Also, since I'm here, I'm gonna sneakily fix this thing I found out about. When we did our components and we made our page layout, I added the when we made the header layout, the src of the image here is /images, so that's gonna take it from like a relative path, which isn't good, because now that we have like a sub page, like we have theme/essential randomness, now that logo does not exist relative to it. So yeah, I just needed to remove that. But yeah, now we have like this member page. And it is going to, let me see what it says in the content collection page about how to get that data in a way where it doesn't really, where it doesn't like yell at me that way. I guess. Well, there are a few ways. One way is I can just say that member entry is going to be, like I can literally just tell TypeScript that I want this to be a collection entry of type theme. Like this is just a contrived way to be like, and now TypeScript is like, you cannot do this, and I'm like, stop me. Teaching people bad habits, but this will work. We can discuss better ways of doing it another day. So now that these things exist, I'm also gonna add at the very bottom, I'm going to add see other members, and then I'm gonna do this is just gonna be team. So now going back to the browser, yeah, here is my page, and then at the bottom there is a see other member, and I'm gonna go to see other member, I go back to team. And that's the, and now I can do, like, if I instead I go back to the team page, here I can turn all these H2, well, we're gonna code. When I go back through the code window, I go back to my team page, I can turn all these H2s into links to the oops, I can sorry. So here I do actually want to go to the team page, and then slash, I want it to link, where are you? Okay, there you are. So member.id. Oh, that's too many A's. Okay, give me. Okay, that's much better. So now here, if I go back to the browser, now I've turned all the H2s into links. When I click on them, I go to the page of the person. And then, like, same thing for like the sergeant, I go to the page and then I go back. And it just created a page for everyone. But this has to be in an H2. That's what happened. That's what it messed up. Ah, yes. Okay. And so now, yeah, all the elements here have been turned into links. Then go to the page, and then you could do things like getting who the next and previous member is. So, for example, I'm gonna do quickly a couple more examples, and then well, I'm just gonna do this last thing, and then I'm gonna just polish this page very, very quickly, and you know, just prepare it for doing that. Another thing you can do, I think, is like you can do params, member ID. You can also add prop, so you can do things like next, and then another thing that map has, the second argument is an index. So this one, it's telling you which index you're at in the member of the array, and so you can do if index is not the last element. So if index is less than okay, if index is less than team dot length -1. So if you are not the last one, you can do that. The next member is gonna be team at position. Oh god, sorry. This is when the keyboard trouble starts. Okay, team index dot id, or if not, null. And then you can say previous. And then here you have index bigger than 0. Then that's gonna be also, this is one index +1. That's what I was doing. And then it's gonna be team index -1 dot id or null. And so here I think you can get current, previous and next. Here you can do previous, next through astro.props. That's my understanding from the documentation. I have not tried this. And then you could do things here like team next oh my god, okay, but we need that. So basically what I'm building up right now is I'm building up previous member and next member as just like a thing, just to show that this is possible. And then you go here, and then previous. Oh, come on, I just got a new. Okay, previous. And then see previous member. And here you can go more complicated, you know, like you can like pass save what the name of the member is. Liz saying, I'm having so many ideas. I know, why do you think I keep wanting to show this to people? Because I know what you're all gonna do with it. Like, I don't know, but I do know that you're gonna go wild on this. Like, it's so cool. How wouldn't you? So here we're doing only if the next one exists. Yes, I have used the wrong one, but like previous. So previous here should go. So here we're doing if previous member exists, then we do see previous member, and here we're gonna do if a next member exists. Then see next member. Time for. Okay. You can see that when I start losing it with the keyboard, I get slowed down a lot. But yeah, now I have added this bit. So now if I go like on a rares page, I have see previous member, set see next member. Let me go get it back. Where is it? Oh, here. So here, see next member. See, now it gets mine. See next member, surgeon. See next member, spelling down. See next member, and then now Emmy doesn't have next member, but you can go see a previous member, see previous member, and like obviously this all needs to be styled, you know. But that's a thing you can do. And like Jack doesn't have a previous one. So yeah, that's how you do it. Let me add everything to Git, and then here I'm gonna do a commit that says created individual member pages. The other thing I want to show you, and we're done aside from styling, and I'll, you know, just kind of gonna do something very, very quick here, and like maybe chat with people while I do it. Switch windows, but I'm not counting because it's Git. Okay, you're very right, but I was about to start, so you saved me. So here, when we go build, you're gonna see now it has for like you see we had the classic messages that it does when it's building, so it's doing it for all the pages, but then when it goes to team member here, it's making one page for each one of the members that we have exported. And that's how you know, like, that's how you know it's working. This is all the pages that have been created. And that's it, I want to say. Like, for the big concepts of this time, it's like, this is it. This is what you can do with content collection. And we're going to do a bit more with the, like next time, we're going to do a bit more with the cards themselves. I'm going to use the theme content collection that we have created within the card, so that, you know, when I show the Git card, I can say, oh, Jack, who is Broke My Crown, Jack is the character artist of this, and, you know, show you how you can cross-reference those. But this is where content collections really shine. Like, look at that. We've done a list of all of them, we've displayed them all on a page, and now we have done individual pages, and we've even like shown next and previous pages. And as I was mentioning to Lee that asked, you can do, like, you can use the data that you have in a content collection to create other pages. So, for example, for roles, if I wanted to have a role page for each role that I give to members, well, I could do that. I would just change how this getStaticPath thing works. Instead of using the member ID, I would use the member role. Like, I would group all the data I have by role, and then for each role I would return a page. And then here, instead of just like getting the entry this way, I would go through all the entry and I would filter for only the one that contains a specific role. Like, you have to program it, but it's really flexible. And yeah, if anyone has more questions about like content collections and, you know, what anything here, feel free to ask them. And in the meantime, I'm just gonna like take a quick styling dive. Oh, well, we also need to add a theme page, a theme link in the nav. But I'm just gonna be finishing very quickly this stuff so that we can publish it, so that people will have, you know, people that receive the cards are going to be able to get this information about all of us. Lee says my OCs are gonna be so organized. I keep telling you people that this is the best thing ever for OCs, like for all this type, like for everything. You can, like, you know, oh my god, I don't have OCs. I guess I have the FujoGuide OCs, but like if I had OCs, oh, I would totally use this. Should team go around the about us? Maybe. I'm just gonna go and make also a theme page, and then, you know, one day we will discuss our website and like actually polish it. But for now, let's just do the theme bit. So now we have a new theme page in the nav, or at least we should have. Okay. Theme, and that has our theme. And now in the theme page, well, the right thing to do would be to, because I copy and pasted the thing, like the real right thing to do would be to make a component for all the elements, but no one has time for that. So I'm just gonna first of all fix the max width of the image to like 150 pixels or something. Yeah, much better. Oh, let me show the browser both of them. Well, our about us is empty. Oh, you really want to publish it? I do want to publish it because, yeah, as Ellen says, they need a page to go to. I mean, yes, we should probably. I can remove the about us and just have home, characters, and theme. Is it time to say goodbye to about us? Like, yeah, bye. That's it. Maybe theme can have something more there. I thought about us was going to be broader. Yeah, I mean, eventually it is gonna be. Like, the question is, do we want to have a half-assed about us together with... I can restore the about us. I was just gonna, like, pretend that we do not have it. Like, at least for now, like, since we have already, like, a team page. Though, I have to say that we should probably write that this is only a few people in our team. I'm just gonna add this page is under construction, more team members exist. Let's see, how do we do this? Well, let me, you know what, I'm gonna go in the browser here and I'm gonna inspect the page and I'm gonna play around with the CSS just here, and then we can copy and paste the things I do. So the UL, we can give it a bit more of a padding, left. Let's say 40 pixel. Oh wow. Just adding some padding left. To this with help for each UL. More team members, and bring this to life, or whatever exists is fine. It's kind of funny. Yeah, I wasn't gonna yeah, I kind of like am alphafing it. I'm gonna wrap this in a section. And I'm gonna make every one of the team member an article, because that works in theory, I think. And then I'm gonna do section. This is display flex, and then flex direction is gonna be a column, and then gap something like 20 pixel, so there is some spacing. Okay. If it was me, I also realized I wasn't on the page, but now it's fine. Now we're just like, if it was me, I'd move the roles to the right of the image using flex. Yeah, I kind of wanted to do that too. I mean, I feel like I'm thinking it's kind of a bit of a more of a grid thing than a flex thing, because you are gonna have well, unless you wrap both of those in something, which you could do, or you could do like a article into a grid, and then you would have article display grid, and then you would have oh god, grid template columns 150. Where are you? 150 pixel, and then one fraction. And now you're gonna have, yeah, that's the problem there. You're gonna have Oh, but these are also not in the same thing. Oh my god, this is kind of a mess. Like, I mean, it works. But let me see what happens if I just then do h2. I'm gonna say columns span 2. Now we're like, this is where I show that I don't know great well. Let's see, how do you work? h2, it's not column span 2. How do you work? Column span 2. Nope. Gonna Google it. Grid column span 2? I'm pretty sure. Because I want to make that one span 2 things, so... Okay, so now this one gets the whole... this one gets the whole row. Grid columns span 2. But now the problems that we have is the roles and contacts bit are like, I was hoping that, oh wait, is it not working anymore? Grid column? Was it just one? Okay, yes, it was just one. You know, I was trying to do this, but I was here. But now the roles one is actually like 2 separate elements, so I can make it work as we were saying, but I need to wrap these ones in a div, which, you know, can make sense. It is the same thing. And so now with that, now you have the, if you look at this, now the roles are within the image and then contacts are at the bottom. I mean, I don't know how I feel about this, but that's one way of doing it. I don't know, like, however, that I love it. Let me see, how was it without grid? How was it looking? To be honest, I'm kind of like tempted to just leave it as it is. It's good enough. And the one thing I want to change is I want to change the contacts. Instead of having this HTTPS at the start, I want to remove it. So here I'm gonna go on the contact, and then I'm gonna remove the well, there are better ways of doing this, but I'm just gonna be doing like HTTPS. That's gonna be like around 8 letters. So if I do this, this is gonna give me the there. Here in the code, I have basically just like removed the HTTPS column / / from the front of the contact here in the page, so that it looks a little bit better. And then here section, we did display flex direction column. We're gonna do the same for the article, but this is gonna have a smaller gap, like 5 pixels, and this should at least add a little bit of spacing for the images and the things. And then the last bit, we are gonna do the same to this other page. I'm just gonna copy this style because we have done more or less the same thing, and I'm gonna go on the member page and I'm gonna copy it. And like, not everything is gonna exist, but here is the page looks a bit better. And now the only one thing we also need is this to style this see other member previous next. Gonna do gonna put this into its own nav. And then that nav is gonna be at the end. Here I'm gonna get a nav, and then I'm gonna give it a big margin top, so it's very far. What's it, 30 pixel? So it's very far from the rest of the contents. And then I am going to center the text. Yes, now the text is centered. And then I'm gonna change see other member to be see all members. I mean, it isn't great. It works. I'm gonna remove C. I'm just gonna do previous member, all members, and next member, just saving some space. Yeah, I'm just gonna keep it as this. It's not gonna be looking amazing, but it is good enough, I think. I'm also gonna do nav. Instead of text align center, I'm gonna be doing display flex, and then I'm gonna be giving it a small gap so that there is spacing, like 15 pixel between these. And then it's gonna be like, yeah. That works. Yeah, it's good enough for me, which means it's good enough for anyone. But Lee, if you wanna style this, by all means, style members pages. Okay, we have done it. So now I can push this to, well, first of all, let me check it builds. And yes, it does. And so I can push it to origin. Team, Miss Boba, Lee likes CSS, make Lee do the CSS. Yes, I am indeed using you. And now I am going to try and make a pull request, but one thing is in my browser. Did I? No. I don't have in that window, I do not have my account, so you're just gonna have to trust me that I'm doing a pull request. Where is my repositories? Where is my repository? Here it is, FujoGuide's. And so now I have done a pull request. Create theme page. I'm gonna show it in a second once this is in the FujoGuide repo. Oh, and we'll also find out if Lee can merge pull requests. So now there is a pull request here to create a theme page in the FujoGuide. In the FujoGuide repo, at some point, now Vercel is very kindly building our preview. At some point it will be done, it will let me visit a preview, and so here there is a theme page, and that one works. And the pages, yes, previous member, all members, next members. And Lee, can you approve my pull request? the big question. Waiting. But yeah, here you can see like all the files that have been changed, all the things that have been added, and like anyone that would do this for like to add their own oh, it's been merged, to add their own team member would just do a very similar process as I have done. They would just create their they would just go on their copy, add their data, and then create a pull request. And then someone like Lee that just did it made this code. If you look at here at all the commits on our website, made create team page be part of our actual website code. So now if we go on FujoWeb.dev, that's the wrong one. If we go on FujoWeb.dev, now we have the team page. Oh, that under construction isn't working. I think I know why I met it before. But yeah, here, team members. And then we can now go ask people to like add their own things. Oh, I didn't add the contact bit on all the pages. Okay, it's fine. It's good enough. Good enough for what we have today. And then like, yeah, maybe we should do like, given how you know how a lot this was, we should do another session of like Q&A, and in the meantime work on like making these pages like look better. But yeah, that's all for today. This was I'm gonna try to make this shorter and then make it longer and longer. This was a bit longer than usual. We had to go through all of it, but I'm very glad that I got to actually show you all how this works, and I'm really glad I gave Lee a lot of, you know, evil thoughts about what to do with content collection. You can make OC pages, you can make your fan fictions, you can make a lot of things. Everything is a content collection if you are not a coward. But yeah, no, you can do a lot with content collections. I'm really like excited to have more people like try them and build their own, and you know, I will be using them again. So if this was a lot, just come back. We'll make it sync with time. Repetition is the master of learning. But yeah, no, thank you all for coming. Thank you, Alan and Lee, for like manning the chat and just being here for this tour de force. I'm actually pretty proud of how this came out. Come on, even if it's like very, very, you know, it clearly was made in 3 hours, but it's nice. It worked out. Yeah, I'll see you all around. We will announce the next stream, I think, with the next update. But yeah, let me know if there is anything else you want me to explain that you want to learn. And I think, you know, we are gonna do some polish on the website maybe, and then go back to the characters card, and then, you know, like try to get one more content collection in, and then try to see how we can go from the team, from the characters to the team, and kind of bring this together and reference them with each other. Ellen says, thank you, it's functional, it has the info, that's what matters. Yes, so I'm sure that like as soon as everyone receives those cards and they're gonna see the names, this is gonna be there, and they're all gonna go there immediately and follow everyone. So I'm sure this is what's gonna happen. Well, okay, great. Thank you so much, everyone. I'll see you online. And if you have questions, again, we are on the web. You just holler, and hopefully an answer will make it back to you. Good night. Bye.